Today I'm going to show you how I made this cute quilted Christmas tree. Okay, so to make your Christmas tree, the first thing you'll need is 20 squares. And you can use a variety of colors, and you can make these squares whatever size you want. In the green Christmas tree I made here, I used a charm pack, so 5-inch squares. These are 3-inch squares. So I have my squares, and now I'm going to cut 8 of these squares from corner to corner. So I'm going to grab 4 of each. Since I'm not using as wide of a variety of colors, I grabbed some random Christmassy fabric that I had left over from last year, because a few people asked me to show how I made that tree, and this is what I had on hand. Okay, so now that we have our pieces cut, we're going to design how our tree looks. So just kind of put them in the order you would like them. So you'll start with 2 of the triangles at the top, and then 1 square, 2 triangles, and then you move on to 2 squares and 2 triangles. And I'm just gonna kind of alternate my design. And then the next row you're gonna have 3 squares and 2 triangles. Nope, I need that one over there. Okay, so I have the first tree laid out, and then I'm going to do the second tree and get it ready for sewing quickly. Okay, now that I have everything laid out, what you're gonna do is sew rows together. So I'll sew these 2 pieces together, these 3, these 4, and then these 5. And I'm gonna do that for both because we're gonna need a front and the back for the tree. So once I get the rows together, I press my seams, and then I sew all the rows to each other. And I'll show you that part after I sew all these rows together and press the seams. I'll show you what I do to sew each of the rows together. Okay, now I have all my rows sewn together, and I have the seams pressed. For this, it doesn't really matter what direction you press them, because everything's lining up with seams not meeting. So I don't feel like that's something you have to focus on a lot. What you can see is on some of these blocks, I pressed the center so that I have a little seam there. And I did this so that when I pin these together, I can easily meet up the middle of my strips and pin there to sew. And I don't think I mentioned it, but during this project I sew a 1/4 inch seam the whole time. I don't think it matters so much what seam you sew as long as it's consistent. So I'm gonna pin there and sew these together, and then I'm gonna bring the middles together and sew those rows. So I have that set done, and then I already have the front, back, whatever I want it to be ready, and I'm gonna do the same. I'm gonna pin and sew all these. And okay, so I have both of my trees sewn together. There's a few things that I want to point out. When I pressed my rows, I pressed these little tails up, the seams up there, all the way across my points. I didn't leave it facing down. I evened it out and pressed them. So I have this all ready to go. Now, if you wanted to at this point, you could put right sides together, sew around it, leave an opening to flip, and stuff it and have really cute trees. You don't have to quilt them if you don't want to. I just like the look of them being quilted, so I'm going to cut my batting to size and quilt them, and then put right sides together and sew around the edge and stuff them. So as you can see, I didn't have batting that was the right size to put these trees on, so I pieced them together. If you're watching my Jenny's Countdown to Christmas, you would know I got some batting seam tape in day 7's box, and so I was able to try it today. I think it seems like it will hold pretty well. I did notice that there's a few spots that I didn't keep them together nicely and it's a little open. For a project like this, I think that's fine. If I was going to use this for a quilt, that would kind of upset me. I think that the zigzag stitch pulls them together a little bit tighter for me than using the batting seam tape. So that's kind of nitpicky. It seems to work fine and does the job. So yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace around my trees, and I have found that I don't want to have the batting completely even with the trees if I'm doing something where I'm going to flip them. So I'm actually going to cut a 1/4 inch around this after I'm done tracing so that it's not completely even in the middle. And I'm sure you could use something else that would probably make this a little bit easier, because this is just regular batting that I have on hand. Maybe like some fusible fleece or something like that would probably work a little bit better. But I am somebody who really likes to use what I have on hand, and I always have a lot of batting scraps, so I just go for what I can use. So what I'll do is, to attach this batting onto the tree, is either pin it or I'll spray it, and likely I will spray it because that'll go a little bit faster than pinning. So let me get this marked, and what I'll probably do is go ahead and separate these so you don't have to watch me do both of them. You'll get the idea. Whew, I almost cut through that one. So let me move that one to the side and just show you on here what my plan is. So I kind of have it sketched out. I'm the messiest like worker ever on stuff. So I'm gonna want to cut this a 1/4 inch in, just so that I don't have a lot of bulk at the seams when I flip. And so what I do is I line up the 1/4 inch seam on my ruler. At least I hope that's a 1/4 inch seam. That's what I've been using it for. And I'm gonna trim inside of where I marked. And so I just go around and try to line it up the best I can and cut that excess off. And obviously it's going to be easier in some parts than others, because when you get into those corners, it's really not as easy. And I must have done a horrible job drawing there because this is really off. And so I just do the best I can. And then I just keep working through this. And like I said, getting up into some of these corners may not be as easy, but this batting isn't as big of a deal as, you know, the part that you see. This is just gonna help me get the nice quilting lines. So I may need to use scissors to snip there. But that's what I'm just gonna keep doing. I'm gonna do this on both of my battings. Okay, so there you go. I have the batting cut, and maybe there is a much easier way to do this. I don't know. There could be, but I'm just one of those people that are like, if I have an idea of something I want to do and I don't know exactly how to do it or the best way to go about it, I just work through it and figure out a way to make it work. And that's just kind of how I've always worked. Sometimes I will watch something and find a better way to do it, but for now this is what works for me. If you know a better way, hey, you can tell me in the comments. I'm open to suggestions, but it worked. So so what I'm gonna do is I'll probably spray base this onto the fabric and then quilt it, and I'll probably just do lines just like I did on the other one. So I'll show you that after it's quilted, but first I need to do this one. And with this one, I already have a template for it. So the easiest thing to do is take this one and cut around it. So I'm still gonna draw because I don't want to accidentally cut, you know, anything off this batting. I've already gone in farther than I needed to in different places. So I'll just draw around this one, and then I can just cut out the piece exactly as needed. So it'll go a little faster. Okay, so I have my two trees quilted, and I used the red thread from Missouri Star Quilt Company. It's cotton, and I got this thread on day 5 of my unboxing of Jenny's Countdown to Christmas. So I used that red thread to do the quilting, and so now it's time to bring these two together, and we're just gonna sew around the edge. I'm gonna sew a 1/4 inch seam. If this was something that might get a lot of wear, like I was actually gonna make this into a pillow that would be used on the couch or something like that. I'd probably do a 1/2 inch. I do a 1/2 inch when bringing together bags, tote bags, stuff that gets a lot of wear, but this is just gonna be decorative. So I'm gonna just do a 1/4 inch seam. And you're going to want to leave the bottom part of that open. So I'm going to use 2 clips so I remember when I sit down to sew that I'm leaving enough open to turn this. And this is where we're going to stuff it, but the reason you don't want to just leave an opening wherever is because you need to have somewhere to put your dowel or whatever you're going to use as the stem of the tree to go into your base pedestal to support the tree in an upright position. So I'm just going to clip around here and make sure everything's lined up and then go sew. And at that point we're pretty much done, because you're just going to stuff, you're going to use whatever stand you want, and you know, that's that's pretty much it. Okay, so I sewed around the edges and I tried to go and make sure that I caught everything on both sides. I like to do that before I flip and just make sure it looks like I didn't leave anything open. And so here is my cute little tree. So what needs to happen now is just stuffing it, and then you will put the dowel in the middle and fold up the open ends and just stitch it closed. And then if you have your pedestal that you would want to set it on. So it's just that simple at this point. I hope you have fun making your Christmas tree. Have a great holiday, and thanks for watching. Bye.